I'd like to thank our reader, Judy Johnson, for the fabulous reading, as well as Karen Drucker and our CSL music team for the supporting music today. This is week 3 of our 4-week series based upon the book, The 4 Pivots by Shawn Ginwright. And each week is independent. We continue to look at creating a tapestry of our own lives so we can live from how we feel and know we wish we want to be. Ginwright has some amazing ideas in Pivot 3, from problem to possibility, and he reminds us not to be problem lovers. The reading and his words in the meditation give us a little bit of a jump start about the message today, and it's good for us to recognize that we can learn to move from focusing on problems to open it up to possibilities. But first, before we get into the details, I have the question for the week. What is the one choice that you can make today to reframe problems into opportunities, to embrace uncertainty as a space where new possibilities emerge, and to focus on what's already good in your life? One more time. What is that one choice that you can make today to reframe problems into opportunities, to embrace uncertainty as a space where new possibilities emerge, and to focus on what's already good in your life? This third pivot, from problem to possibility, offers us a profound shift in how we approach challenges and opportunities in our lives. It's about changing our mindset from one of limitation, where we see only obstacles and deficits, to one of possibility, where we unlock creativity, potential, and hope. When we shift from problem to possibility, we tap into a deeper well of solutions, ideas, and growth that can transform not only our circumstances, but also our inner world. Let's start with a look at the mindset that we have about problems in our world today. I think far too often, society conditions us to focus on the problem. We're taught to identify what's wrong, to diagnose the issues, and then fix them. While this approach does have its place, it can also trap us in a narrow way of thinking that limits our capacity to see beyond what's broken. We start to believe that we're defined by our problems, and our energy becomes consumed by what's missing or lacking. Shawn Ginwright puts it this way: the problem mindset keeps us stuck, focusing on deficits, limitations, and what's wrong. It creates a sense of scarcity where we believe there isn't enough time, money, or resources to solve the issues we face. This mindset is rooted in fear and scarcity, making it difficult to imagine a different, better future. And what I know is that my God is right there waiting with the answer for me. A Course in Miracles teaches us the ego's motto is seek but do not find. So when we are locked into a problem-focused mindset, we keep seeking solutions that seem elusive because our intention is fixed on what's wrong rather than what's possible. The problem becomes self-perpetuating because we're feeding it with our thoughts, our energy, and attention. Truly, have you ever considered that worry is just praying for what we don't want? A possibility mindset, on the other hand, requires a new way of thinking, and it's rooted in abundance, creativity, and hope. It invites us to look beyond the surface of challenges and see what else might be possible. Rather than being defined by problems, we become defined by our capacity to imagine, create, and manifest new solutions. Ginwright describes this shift as moving from a deficit orientation to one that is asset-based, where we recognize the potential and strengths that already exist within us and within our communities. This doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending they don't exist. I want to make that very clear. It does mean choosing to focus on what is possible even in the face of those challenges and problems. Part of our philosophy in this community is that our thoughts create our reality. So when we shift our thinking from problems to possibilities, we open ourselves to solutions that we may never have imagined before. Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science Mind Movement and our founding father, said, "The world in which we live is a world of thought and feeling. Behind everything there is a cause, which is within us. When we think from the standpoint of possibility, we align ourselves with infinite potential." Now, I don't know about you, but I can speak for myself that infinite potential sure sounds a lot better than being caught up in a problem. Of course, to live in the infinite possibilities requires us to pivot in practical ways in our lives to a possibility mindset. So how do we do that? What if you were able to reframe problems as a challenge? And when a problem arises, instead of getting stuck in what's not working, train your mind to ask this question: what's the opportunity here? Perhaps then you'll be able to see the situation as a catalyst for growth, for learning, or creativity, and be inspired to see some of the solutions. A Course in Miracles reminds us, every problem is an opportunity to learn something new. That mindset shifts us to approach challenges with curiosity rather than with fear. Then we're better able to release focusing on what we lack, either resources, time, support, or knowledge, and shift our attention to embrace what we already have and how we can build on those strengths. Ginwright emphasizes this by saying, communities are more than the sum of their challenges. They are also rich with history, culture, wisdom, and resilience. Focusing on these assets opens doors to possibilities. And while Ginwright was talking about communities, I believe that that's true of individuals as well as communities. A possibility mindset requires vision, a willingness to imagine a different, better future, even if it seems really far-fetched. Do you ever notice when you believe that you can do something that it seems a lot easier to accomplish than when you start out thinking how hard accomplishing it might be? Ernest Holmes encourages us to think big thoughts and speak only words of encouragement to yourself. Think big thoughts and speak only words of encouragement to yourself. I imagine that if we did that, our lives would be a whole lot easier. Change begins with the ability to envision something greater than the current circumstances. Visionary thinking allows us to see beyond immediate obstacles and focus on long-term possibilities. When we approach life with a problem mindset, we often are seeking certainty and control, and it leads to rigid thinking. On the other hand, a possibility mindset welcomes uncertainty as a space where new possibilities can emerge. Imagine that. Ginwright notes, when we release the need for certainty, we open ourselves to new pathways, insights, and opportunities that wouldn't have been visible before. In pivoting to possibilities, uncertainty, rather than being a threat, becomes a gateway to creativity and innovation. I'm certain that if you've heard me speak very often, you know that I'm big on gratitude. Gratitude is another powerful practice that helps us focus on what's already good and abundant in our lives. And when we anchor ourselves in gratitude, we naturally begin to see more possibilities. The Course in Miracles tells us gratitude is a way of seeing that brings more light to our awareness. And as we move to investigate possibilities, cultivating hope is also essential. Hope is not blind optimism. It's a steadfast belief that something better is possible, even when we can't see it yet. There was a small town that had a worn out playground, and the swings were cracked, the slide was rusty, the paint on the benches was chipped and faded, and the playground had once been a heart of a neighborhood, but was now deserted. There were only a few kids that occasionally kicked a ball around or sat on an old merry-go-round. The town council debated for months about the playground. At every meeting, the conversation focused on the same issues: no funds, safety concern, and the need for expensive repairs. The discussions always ended up with people shaking their heads, and they were frustrating. The consensus was that they simply didn't have the resources to make meaningful improvements. However, one day during a heated council discussion on the playground, Mrs. Carter spoke up. She had lived there her entire life and had watched generations of children play in that very park. And she said, "We're looking at this all wrong. We're focusing on what we don't have: money, resources, time. But what if we shifted our thinking and asked a different question? What if we start asking what's possible with what we already have?" Well, her words lingered in the room for a while, and people started thinking in terms of the budget shortfall, the lack of volunteers. But Mrs. Carter's question invited them to see beyond their limitations. So, inspired by their words, the community decided to hold a brainstorming session. And the time focused solely on possibilities. They invited everybody to come and to give their opinions. Families and teenagers and business owners, many of which had played at the park when they were little. And what do you think happened? At the gathering, ideas began to flow. Instead of focusing on what they couldn't do, people began to imagine what they could do, even with their limited resources. A local artist offered to organize a mural project to paint the playground walls, and it involved kids and adults alike, so it was bringing the community together. A group of teenagers suggested doing a cleanup day, and everyone could pitch in and clear all the weeds and fix the broken benches and add some new plants. And the local hardware store owner agreed to donate paint and tools in exchange for advertising space on a sign near the entrance. But the most exciting idea came from a young boy named Leo. He stood up and said, "What if we make our own games instead of buying new stuff? We can use what we have at home, like old tires, wood, and paint. We can make obstacle courses or even build a fort." Leo's ideas sparked a wave of creativity. Soon parents and kids and neighbors started gathering every weekend to work on the project. They turned old tires into climbing structures. They built balance beams from scrap wood and even created a giant chalkboard wall for kids to draw on. The once bleak playground was coming to life in ways they had never before imagined. And something deeper was happening. Neighbors who had barely known each other were getting to know each other. Conversations at the playground weren't just about repairs, they were about dreams and shared goals and the joy of creating something together. The focus had shifted from problems, lack of funds, dilapidated equipment, to possibilities that emerged when people came together with open minds. The community discovered they really didn't need a big budget to create a vibrant, welcoming space. What they needed was a shift in perspective, from scarcity to abundance, from problems to possibilities. And months later, the newly revitalized playground was buzzing with activity. Children laughed as they raced through their homemade obstacle courses. Parents chatted as they watched their kids play. And the mural on the wall told the story of a community that had come together, not focusing on what they didn't have, but exploring what they could create with what they did. At the playground's grand reopening, Mrs. Carter, the guest of honor, looked around with tears in her eyes. "We were so focused on the problems that we couldn't see the possibilities right in front of us," she said. "But when we opened our hearts and minds to what could be, we found something greater than a fixed playground. We found each other." The community was originally stuck on limitations and obstacles, and yet it managed, through the help of an old lady and a young boy, to pivot its circumstances from problem to creativity and collaboration. The shift wasn't about suddenly finding more resources or more money. It was about changing how they looked at their situation. When we embrace a possibility mindset, we discover solutions and build a stronger community in the process. The truth is, there is always potential waiting to be tapped. When we stop asking what's wrong and start asking what's possible, we unlock new paths, deeper connections, and a more hopeful future. I want to also say that I see this particular pivot as one of spiritual liberation, because we're moving from fear, which is the problem mindset, to faith and freedom, which is the possibility mindset. We free ourselves from the constraints of fear and limitation and step into an expansive, creative potential of life. The Course in Miracles teaches us what you see as a problem is merely a call for a different perception. What you see as a problem is merely a call for a different perception. When we change our perception, what once seemed like an obstacle becomes a stepping stone toward growth and fulfillment. This pivot is all about realizing that we have the power to choose our perspective, and in doing so, we have the power to change the world around us. Holmes put it this way: you are the creator of your experience. When you align your thinking with possibility, you align with the divine creative power within you. There is no limit to what can be achieved when you think from the perspective of possibility. Perhaps it's time that we choose to align with that divine creative power within each of us and begin to notice the possibilities rather than the problems. A possibility mindset is a way of living that recognizes the infinite potential within each challenge. It's about trusting that no matter how daunting a situation may seem, there's always room for growth, creativity, and transformation. Ginwright beautifully captures this sentiment. When we focus on possibility, we become creators, not just reactors. We shift from being problem solvers to possibility makers, unlocking doors that we never knew existed. Discovering and unlocking doors that I never knew existed sounds like a great adventure to me. So, the next time I'm faced with a challenge, I plan to ask myself, what is possible here? If we could each hold space for new ideas, insights, and pathways to emerge, I'm certain we would transform the situation and deepen our connection to the limitless potential within us and within the world around us. The truth is, there is always potential waiting to be tapped. When we stop asking what's wrong and start asking what's possible, we do indeed unlock new paths, deeper connections, and a more hopeful future. So in summary, how might you truly move from problem mindset to a possibility mindset? We just remember, reframe problems into opportunities. Just ask, what's the opportunity here? Seek so you find. Root yourself in your creativity. Embrace uncertainty as where possibilities emerge. So learn to build on your strengths and assets. Have vision and be willing to imagine the far-fetched. Focus on the good life. Cultivate gratitude and hope, knowing that something better is always possible. And move from fear and limitation to faith and freedom. So here's your affirmation for the week. How is it today I so easily and willingly make one small change to reframe problems into opportunities, to embrace uncertainty as a space where new possibilities emerge, and to focus on what's already good in my life? And your challenge for the week is to find new perspectives in solving whatever problems arise in your life. Check in daily and just notice, how did you do with the challenges that arose that day? Did you face them with the problem mindset or with the possibility mindset? Let's pray. We take a deep collective breath and we settle into that space within us where we know that God exists, where we feel the love and the abundance and the wisdom of the divine. And what I know is each of us has all of that love and wisdom and possibility thinking right within us. And I am truly knowing that this week, when something comes up that appears to be a problem on the surface, that we approach it with a possibility mindset. Instead of spending all of our times thinking about how can we solve this problem, what are the limitations we have, we're going to ask ourselves, what is the opportunity here? What's the possibility here? Not what's wrong. So I am grateful. I'm grateful for this opportunity to bring you this message of pivoting from problem to possibility. I'm grateful for all the people in this community that support each other when problems arise. And I'm grateful that we have a collective wisdom that knows any problem that is here already has a solution in the mind of the divine. So it's with great gratitude that I release all of this into the law of mind, spirit, and action, knowing that it's already done, so I can say amen, and we can affirm it together. And so it is. And I truly want to thank everyone that continues to support this community. I love showing up every Sunday and being able to provide a message that I hope raises your spiritual consciousness. And I invite you to come to our phone calls after the service and go deeper with a fabulous group of people that bring a lot of wisdom to the call. Thank you very much, and enjoy our offertory song.